You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Jeff Garvin.
I'm Dan Zarzana.
Let the journey begin. This episode of The Hero's Journey is made possible by generous support from listeners just like you. Visit patreon.com/heroesjourney to make a single donation or become a monthly sponsor and earn access to our awesome bonus audio and video content, and you get the power to vote for the subject of our next episode.
Thank you to all of our patrons, especially our newest patron, Melanie Nelson.
Woohoo!
And thank you to our two demigod-level patrons, Dean Ethington and John Peterson Jr. And welcome to this month's episode, Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers assaulted theaters on November 7, 1997. It was written by Edward Neumeier of RoboCop fame. Neumeier of RoboCop fame, directed by Paul Verhoeven, whom you'll recognize from such films as Showgirls, Basic Instinct, and Total Recall, and based quite loosely on the 1959 Hugo Award-winning Robert Heinlein novel of the same name.
I'm surprised you didn't say RoboCop for Paul Verhoeven.
Did I not? Yeah, he's RoboCop too. I mean, I just felt like listing three films was gratuitous enough.
Okay. Ed Neumeier wrote RoboCop?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I didn't know that. It was a breakout film for its star Casper Van Dien and his lantern jaw, and featured performances by Denise Richards, NPH himself, Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes.
Jake Busey, who I adore in this film.
Oh, man. He's so great.
And Dina Meyer, who I just adore in general.
Oh, she's so good in this. And we can't forget Clancy Brown as Sergeant Zim. This is Clancy's second appearance on The Hero's Journey.
Yes, it
because he played Captain Hadley in The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. And as Mr. Rasizak.
I think that's Radcheck.
It's Radcheck. I'm joking.
Oh, that's humor.
We have the inimitable Michael Ironside.
Yes.
He is the consummate badass.
Yeah.
In arguably every movie he's ever made.
Every single movie ever
Total
made,
Recall, Top Gun, ER. What? Sequest 2032?
He was in Sequest. I thought you would enjoy that.
It's called Sequest 2032? That's not Sequest DSV?
Well, maybe this was a different...
Is this a follow-up?
Maybe it was a made-to-TV movie? I don't know.
He was the big bad evil guy in Highlander 2.
Oh, yeah. And he was in V.
The original V?
Yeah, the original V. The alien...
Oh, my gosh.
The alien/Nazi allegory.
Yeah.
So good.
Wow.
Michael Ironside has 263 acting credits on IMDb.
That's incredible.
I think that's more than any other actor we've mentioned on this podcast. There was
There was Owl Powell.
Owl Powell.
He had
more than 263.
I don't know, but he's got a ton, 200 something.
It's time for he and Michael Ironside to have their own series. So, Starship Troopers was nominated for one Oscar, Best Visual Effects, but it lost to Titanic.
Starship Troopers grossed $121.2 million against its $100 million budget. Not great, but nevertheless, it did become a cult classic and spawned a whole franchise. I'm going to say it's a forgettable franchise. I've seen a couple of the follow-ups, and oh boy.
Yeah.
There are 5 films in total, including Starship Troopers 2, which had a budget of $7 million.
Yeah.
And 2007's Starship Troopers 3 Marauder, which featured the return of Casper Van Dien and featured Star Trek's Jolene Blalock, and got a bumped-up budget of $9 million.
Yeah, a little improvement, right?
Yeah, added a little extra 2-spot to the top of that.
They got Casper, so...
Yeah. Then there were 2 digital animation features, the last of which was 2017's Starship Troopers Traitor of Mars, which brings back the original cast members Casper Van Dien and Dina Meyer.
Yeah, Diz is back.
Diz is back?
So I watched
resurrection action?
I watched some of it on YouTube. First of all, the animation is really good for the time period. Like, it was really cool to watch.
For the time period?
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago.
Well, there were the earlier one too was like 2000. I don't know. Anyway, it kind of looked like a video game cutscene, but the animation was pretty cool. And he's walking along the desert in Mars, and he's in like a full mech outfit, and Diz is walking next to him without any kind of protection. So I think she's either like an android with her personality or
she's
a memory.
A robot.
Or she's just like
it
a
could be
fantasy.
A memory.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
There you go. Okay, yeah. Well, it finally took them the third film to even get them in the power suits that are in the book.
Right. I didn't know before we embarked on this journey that there was so much Starship Troopers content. I'm not sure there needs to be.
Yeah. Watch your mouth.
Did you know that before the movies, there was a Starship Troopers original video animation, basically an anime series made in 1988? Did you know that?
Was it based on
Heinlein's
novel?
It was based on the novel. I checked out.
Was it more faithful to Heinlein's novel?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I checked out one of the episodes on YouTube, and it's very reminiscent of 80s anime like Robotech, where it's sort of over-romanticized, and the music is obviously a Japanese singer trying to sound like a Western rock singer, but not quite pulling it off. And as a huge Robotech fan, I think I would enjoy watching the whole thing, but I probably never will because death is a steam engine barreling toward me at full speed.
Wow. Come on, you ape. You want to live forever?
Oh, God. I probably should have seen that coming.
There were also 2 Troop Ship Star video game. What are you... What? You were drunk when you wrote this. I don't know.
When I was typing the script, I kept saying Stormship Troopers, and I don't know why. So then I just started to make them.
You just went with it.
Yeah, I started to make.
All right, so Troop Ship Starpers video games, really? A board game, a miniatures game. That might be fun, like Warhammer 40K, but with actually basically that is what Warhammer 40K is.
Only with
you get Tyranids versus Space Marines. And basically it's Starship Troopers.
Yeah, you're right.
And a role playing game, like tabletop, pen and paper.
Yeah,
we should play that.
I'm sure that it sold ones of copies. I feel like we should stop introducing the movie and actually get to the hero's journey part.
No. People come for the hero's journey, but they stay for our snippy bromance.
Hold me.
Jesus. Act 1 of the hero's journey begins with the world of common day, where we see our main character in their status quo normal life. John Rico is unemployed, takes adult education classes, and still lives at home with his parents.
It's true. All of that is true.
Would you like to know more?
I would like to click.
No, really, John Rico is a high school student being played by a 30, I think he was 28 or 29 year old.
Very like 90210 casting choices.
That's exactly what this was. In fact, like half the people in this movie were in 90210 at one point.
Yeah.
So we were introduced to the world via the Federal Network,
right?
A little state-run news organization that tells us that the Federation is recruiting soldiers, and right away, you know, this is a campy, silly, satirical movie.
I really like
with the I'm doing my part, and the little kid, I'm doing my part too, and everyone laughs.
I actually really liked the conceit of the news segments inserted throughout the movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and you're right. It totally sets you up. This is not going to be a heavy, like, philosophical, anything like the book.
You also learn that Earth is under attack by an alien race from a planet called Klendathu on the other side of the galaxy. They are launching asteroids through space to hit Earth. And that Earth is... Let's not worry about the science of it.
Yeah, this is where we have
and how long it would take for an asteroid to reach Earth.
This is where we have to stop and recognize that this is not really a science fiction movie. It's a war movie in space.
Yeah.
There's no science in the science fiction.
Right. We also learn through this news segment that serving in the military guarantees citizenship.
Right.
So right away we know this is not, your typical American democratic government system,
right?
And we see unfolding throughout the film, this is much more of a fascist government. He made it a utopia, a fascist utopia, and he said that's why everybody in this film is incredibly attractive. He said the film has been criticized for that, and thought that was just bad casting, but he intentionally wanted everybody in the film to be either very attractive or like really badass in some way. Like they were supposed to be the best of They're supposed to be the master race, essentially.
I mean, there are a few people on the planet as sexy as 1997 Jake Busey.
Well, you just like his hair,
and his smile, that big toothy smile.
What is the matter with you?
I love Jake Busey.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome in this movie. Okay, after the news segment, we are introduced to John Rico. He's in school. He's really a high school student, graduating senior, in fact. And we learn that he's not really academically sound.
Right.
But he's an incredible athlete, as we see in it's not football, but it's like an arena football hybrid thing.
For the sake of this podcast, let's call it sports ball.
We'll just call it sports ball. Actually, I read something that I think it's called jump ball. Anyway, whatever. And he doesn't have any problem doing the dirty work. In the science class, they cut open that dog-sized beetle, and he's just in there with the guts, and he's got no problem with it at all. So right away, we know, okay, this is the guy who's going to do the dirty grunt work in this movie.
And we see Denise Richards do a classic cold cream of mushroom Campbell's soup throw up.
It was mashed up banana.
Oh, really?
That's what the vomit was.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then there's a bit more, but it encroaches on the Allies segment because we meet all of his friends. And I think we ought to hold that until Tests, Allies, and Enemies.
Fair enough.
So I'm done with World of Common Day, unless you've got anything else to add.
I think you covered it nicely. This brings us to Call to Adventure, where the hero is presented with a challenge which renders him unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. We've seen that Johnny Rico is not cut out for a career in academia. I think the recruitment video at the top of this film becomes the call to adventure. We don't see Rico watching it, but this is the way the audience sees that this opportunity is before him.
Yes.
You see him having a conversation with his friends, and they're all joining up, and he decides that's the future he sees for himself. So I would call the recruitment video the call to adventure.
Yeah, I would accept that. I had a little bit of difficulty with the call to adventure, but you saying that really locks it in. There's a deleted scene in the film where Carmen Ibanez's father expresses disdain and basically says that Johnny is unfit for his daughter because he and his family are not citizens. They're just rich.
So maybe that's what motivates him because he wants to be with...
Because he is so much in love with Carmen.
Interesting.
So I think that would support what you just said about the recruitment video and him wanting to become a citizen, because really his motivation is kind of weak.
He wants to be with the girl.
Yeah, but without that scene, that deleted scene, it's really he's just chasing the girl. But if you have that scene in there, I think it strengthens the motivation, because he's not just chasing the girl, he's trying to please her father as well. He's trying to earn a place with her, not just to be with her.
Well, and not to read too much into the deep, deep depths of Johnny Rico, but you do see on screen, and Casper Van Dien plays it decently, this struggle between just wanting to chill and be the rich kid and go to Zygote Beach or whatever, Zagataba Beach.
Zegama. Zygote Beach.
He struggles between wanting to go to Zihuatanejo and make his own identity.
Forpers 4
Anyway,
Zygote Beach.
You see him, struggling between just being a rich kid and actually wanting to have his own identity distinct from his parents.
Yes. Right.
So you kind of like him because he could just be a douchey rich kid, but he's not.
Refusal of the call. This is where, confronted with the fear of the unknown, our hero refuses the call. Sometimes this is expressed from within the hero, and sometimes from without. Johnny's parents are the biggest expression of refusal from without. The two of them are absolutely against Johnny joining the federal service. His mother argues that people get killed in the federal service, and his father is outraged. He's incensed that his son would do something this stupid and reckless. And he really just wants to send his son on vacation to Zygote Beach. And I thought I always laugh at that, you're not joining the federal service, you're going on vacation.
Right.
I am not going on vacation.
Well,
I always thought that was a funny little exchange.
I think the dad was clearly playing the two-dimensional mustache twisting dad. And I thought that was not as strong a choice as actual concern.
I feel like that's redeemed a little bit in their second scene when Johnny calls them.
Totally agree.
Right, but because they're both he could have been no, you left, and I told you were cut off if you left, so...
They didn't disown him. They were just like, hey, come back.
Right.
We're ready for you.
Let's talk about it.
Totally agree with that.
So I think that kind of redeems them a little bit and makes Dad less of a jerk there. There's a second element. It's not really a refusal of the call. It's more of like a warning, a herald.
Yeah.
A heralding, a heraldry. Mm-hmm. And that is the recruiting officer. When Carmen's going to be a pilot and Carl got games and theory, so he's going to be a military intelligence officer, and Rico's got infantry.
Yeah.
And the man says, good for you. Mobile infantry made me the man I am today. And he shakes his hand with his robotic hand and he pushes away from the desk and both of his legs have been amputated.
Yeah.
And there's this look of, oh, crap, on
what have I
Rico's
signed up
face.
For? Yeah.
Not quite a refusal, because that doesn't make Johnny say, I don't think I want to do this now. He still goes forward.
I totally agree. Next up is meeting with the mentor. The hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world. The mentor here is Mr. Radchek, who is his civics teacher.
I think like history and civics and yeah.
So he's talking about the value of becoming a citizen.
Look, when you vote, you are exercising political authority. You're using force. And force, my friends, is violence, the supreme authority from which all other authority is derived.
And Johnny asks him, do you think I should join up? And Mr. Radchek says,
figuring things out for yourself is the only freedom anyone really has. Use that freedom. Make up your own mind, Rico.
So that's a very clear expression of meeting with the mentor.
Yeah, I agree. The final segment of Act 3 is...
Act 1. That would be Act 1.
The third...
Your hope you wish we were done.
The final segment of Act 1 is crossing the first threshold where the hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's...
You're having so much trouble with this segment, with introducing this segment.
This crossing represents... If you would stop hissing at me, I could get through this. Represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. I hate you so much.
I hate myself.
So against the threat of familial repudiation, John leaves his home, his father screaming at him.
You walk out that door, you are cut off, young man. You understand me? All right, that's it. You are cut off!
And Johnny walks out that door.
Amen.
He cuts ties with home, and the Federation will give him everything he needs for the next 2 years.
Perfect. One side note, when they're in the spaceport, the two things that I hate in movies and TV that totally call out the fakeness of it is actors carrying empty suitcases. Like they are tossing those suitcases around like they're full of helium.
Right.
It's just like...
like, have you never traveled with a full suitcase before? What's going on?
Or like as the actor, I know you have to do 9 takes, but like put some stuff in there. Like ask the prop master to put some blankets or something in there. So
so there's some heft.
And the second thing is actors drinking obviously empty coffee cups. Like just put some water in there, dude. Put some iced tea in there.
Yeah, because they gesture wildly with it and nothing splashes.
Or they're drinking like a Starbucks cup and they tilt it back to like 270 degrees. And if that were actually had coffee in it, you would be, burning with your... Anyway.
Yep.
Well, that brings us to the end of Act 1. We're going to take a break and then come back with Act 2.
How's your coffee?
It's delicious. You always make really good coffee.
I mean, I just put beans in the bean dust grinder. And add water.
Bean dust water.
Pretty simple. But thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the coffee. I want to know...
Don't Jimmy me, Jules. I know... I know how good my coffee is because I buy it.
Oh, fantastic.
How have we not done Pulp
We haven't
Fiction?
done any Tarantino yet.
What's the matter with
We should have a conversation about that.
We should talk about
lunch.
how our listeners don't tweet at us at all to suggest things. On Facebook they do.
Hold the phone.
Oh.
Somebody did say on our iTunes
you're right.
reviews that they would like us to do Reservoir Dogs.
That'd be good. Maybe that's our next thing, is a Tarantino film.
Could be.
Hateful Eight all the way.
Well, I mean, they have to vote. We have to pick 3 to vote for. But before that, we need to I need to learn what you've been reading, watching, and playing since we recorded last.
All right. I'm going to try not to go on too long. I just attended Thriller Fest, which is
Is that a Michael Jackson thing?
It is. I wore a red leather jacket.
Nice.
No, Thriller Fest is a writing conference for thriller writers. So Harlan Coben was the sort of honorary award winner for this year. They always pick one sort of giant thriller writer, and he's among them. So I read one of his books. I read Runaway, which was a really good thriller. And then I got to meet Harlan Coben at the conference.
Nice.
Super nice guy. There was a lot of wine. I tipped the bartender at at the cocktail party a $5 bill, and I got a Brad Pitt tumbler full of wine. Like, it was a wine glass, but it was
awesome.
It was filled almost to the brim.
Wow.
And I tried to be Dan. I tried to drink the wine and enjoy it. And I think what I discovered was it was not great.
Not good wine?
But I was in New York City, and I went to a fancy French restaurant with my brother-in-law because he knew the chef, blah, blah, blah. And we bought a bottle of wine, and I drank like the first sip, and it was like drinking butter.
Oh.
And I said to him, like, how much did this bottle of wine cost? And he told me the price. It was over $100. And I was like, this is Dan's fault that I can now tell the difference between good wine and bad wine. So now wine that I can afford tastes bad to me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Now, when you say it tasted buttery, that tells me that you were drinking a Chardonnay, or did you mean
No, I didn't.
buttery in that it was just silky smooth?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Like butter, not like the butter flavor. It was a French red
you must
wine.
be very careful about that when you're speaking about wine.
Yes, that's a good point. So there are a couple other books I read. I read The Children of Men by P.D. James. Have you read this book?
No, I love the movie, though.
It's a dystopian...
I didn't know it was a book.
Oh, yeah.
First.
Yeah, it was a book in the early 90s.
Oh. P.D. James.
P.D. James.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the author. I've never read anything by them.
It's a dystopian thriller about a future world where 20 years ago, infertility swept the planet and there have been no children born.
Right.
Fascinating. And then I read Hamlet. I finished the second of my reading Shakespeare's for the year.
Yep.
And I absolutely love it. I got so much more out of it as an adult. And then I went to the theaters and saw the Benedict Cumberbatch 2015 production of Hamlet with the National Theater. They showed it live in the movie. Well, it wasn't live.
Oh,
they showed it in the movie theater. Okay. And I was hesitant to go see a play at the movie theater, but it was great.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed it. And then lastly, Ami and I were in New York, and we went and saw Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Part 1 and 2.
Uh-huh. How was that?
It was, in the truest meaning of the word, amazing.
Oh, great.
The show is spectacular. The very frontier of stage magic craft was used to make this show work. And there were illusions I saw that were the coolest illusions I've ever seen on stage at the Magic Castle, at Penn and Teller in Las Vegas. They were astounding. But they fit inside a story that you already care about. So it was even more magnificent to see that. So the stagecraft was incredible. The acting was great. The score is totally different. They did not use John Williams' Harry Potter score or any of the movie music. Imogen Heap wrote all the music. And so it's this sort of ambient electronic background, and it was a stunning contrast to the Harry Potter story. If you haven't read the script or if you haven't seen anything about it, it picks up 19 years after the books. So that epilogue at the end of Deathly Hallows is the beginning of the play.
Okay. Are Harry and Hermione and Ron in it, or is this a whole new group of people?
Yeah, Harry and Ron and Hermione are now adults. It really centers around Harry's middle child, Albus Severus Potter, and his journey becoming friends with the son of Draco Malfoy. And so the play is really about children of parents and the conflicts and the searching for your own identity and how even the bad guys have daddy issues. So if you get a chance to see it in New York or London or San Francisco, I just plop down the money. It's absolutely worth it.
Wow.
Dan.
Okay.
What have you watched, read, played?
Well, I don't know that I can follow that. Let's just move on to Act 2.
Maybe we just edit it so that can, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Last month, or the previous month, I rapidly rattled off a bunch of different sci-fi films that I had watched.
Yeah.
Not as successful this time. I watched 2 movies.
Oh.
both of them, there was a theme again. Like last month, I was all about sci-fi. This time, it was all historical dramas. I watched Arn, the Knight Templar, which was a Scandinavian. I don't remember which Scandinavian country it was from. But anyway, about Arn Magnusson, who he gets involved in a relationship with a lady that he's not supposed to be involved with, and is exiled and sent to the Holy Land to fight in the Crusades for 20 years.
20 years?
Well, I mean, his sentence is 20 years. So, but yes, he does. Well, spoiler, I guess. I just accidentally spoiled it. But yeah. So there's that, and it was interesting. There were like 7 or 8 different languages spoken in the film. It was pretty cool. And then I watched a movie, a Netflix film from 2018 starring Chris Pine called Outlaw King, which is the story of Robert the Bruce.
What?
Post William Wallace, which is different from... I remember when we did our Braveheart episode, you said that there was a movie, like basically Braveheart 2, called Lions of the North. I do not believe that this was that. I think this is a completely different thing.
Huh.
So I watched that.
Was it good?
I enjoyed it.
I can tell that means it wasn't great, though.
It was... So much of the imagery was a ghost of Braveheart. There were the same shots. Like, remember... in Braveheart, when Murren and William, they've secretly gotten married, and they're walking through their village together, but they're on opposite sides of a crowd, and you keep seeing glimpses of the other as they look across the crowd at each other. There's that exact same shot. There are battle sequences that you could probably cut into Braveheart.
So that was definitely, if you enjoyed Braveheart, you'll enjoy.
Sure. Yeah, it was.
Were there swords sticking out of the ground with the sky behind it?
No, none of that. But I feel like it was very much, a lot of that was homage to Braveheart, not theft.
Okay.
But number one, the one thing that I wanted to mention, and it has nothing to do with historical dramas, is there's a Canadian television show that has just received a bunch of Emmy Award nominations.
Wow.
Called Schitt's Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
My dad's
I
obsessed
love
with it.
this show. It is so funny.
Huh.
And I've been, well, you know, I've been in a rough point for the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
And so my wife found this show and she sat me down and you need to watch. Oh man, I'm hooked. Like I'm already into season 3 and it is so fun. It's about a very well-to-do family who lose everything and they end up living in a motel in this little tiny town called Schitt's Creek. Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara are the mother and father of the family. And then Eugene Levy's real-life son, Daniel, who is also a co-creator of the show with Eugene, is their son, and Annie Murphy plays their daughter. All 4 of these characters, and Eugene Levy is the straight man of the show.
Right.
All 4 of these characters on paper would probably be despicable to most of us, but they are so funny, and the actors are so great at making them warm and relatable, even though they're completely kind of bizarro characters. Like, you would not want to be friends with these people in real life, but you absolutely want to know them in this show. It's so funny. I have not laughed out loud like this in a show since probably the original UK Office.
Wow.
I love it.
Can I confess something to you?
Yeah.
I watched the first episode of that show and I hated it. I couldn't stand the characters. I didn't like the jokes. Going. I will give the second episode a chance. But this is like the first Dark Tower series, because I love Stephen King and I read that book and I hated it. And I think part of it is maybe the expectations were too high, but my impression of the first episode was these are terrible people saying terrible things to each other, and that's like, I'm not laughing. They're just terrible. I didn't find it funny. But maybe I'll watch the second episode and it'll have a different impact. You've convinced me. I will watch the next episode of Schitt's Creek and I will report back to you.
Okay.
See if you can make a convert of me.
All right. Let's exchange our deal or ordeal cards before we get too far along and then forget.
Am I overdoing the sound effect of this?
That one we need to cut because that is not pleasant to the ears.
Okay.
Any of that's necessary.
It's my sound effect of the deal or deal.
Your Foley.
All right.
All right. Take.
All right.
I'm gonna take yours.
And we'll be
All
and
right.
we'll be back with Act 2.
Did I put whiskey in your coffee by accident? I
Of Troomship
apologize.
Starpers.
Starper Confider.
Act 2 begins with tests, allies, and enemies, aka the road of trials. Now in this special world, our hero makes allies, meets enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove his worthiness. Allies, we've got classmates Johnny Rico, Dizzy Flores, and Carmen Ibanez,
Yeah.
who are all from Buenos Aires, yet desperately and obviously Caucasian. This movie...
This is in the far future when
there are more white people?
Well, I was going to say, the population of Earth has become so homogenized, but then you've got other representations in the film, so yeah, no.
I mean,
Turns out not so much.
When Robert Heinlein wrote this book in 1959,
Yep.
it was probably groundbreaking to have an all, a mostly Latino main characters. They totally, why not just change their names and change the name of the city so it's not such bastardization? Anyway, but this was 1997. Things were different. In fact, the only guy that they sort of tried to cast ethnically was Shijumi. And the guy who plays him is Chinese Filipino, half on one side. Like, how did just... Anyway, we've got NPH as Carl Jenkins, the super smart military intelligence guy.
Yep.
And we've got their...
psychic, or did you want to say
He's
that?
also psychic, yes.
Telepath, yeah.
He is the Kvoth of this story, where he is good at everything he does.
He's not. No, he's not, because he can't land Diz.
That's right.
He doesn't get the girl.
Wait, Carl's not out after the girl. What?
Come on.
Oh, God.
Dizzy?
Anyway.
You think they're just friends?
Yes.
He's just playing the friend card? Like,
Yes.
Dizzy's getting rejected by Johnny all the time, so it's all, okay, I'll dance with you. I'll give you a sympathy dance.
He's the BFF. He's the non-threatening BFF.
You think Carl isn't secretly...
I think you're projecting
really wishing
projecting your stuff on Carl. I think maybe you've got some... Is there something you want to tell me? So we've got their fellow infantry recruits, Ace, played by Gary Busey. Great performance. You need a guy like this in every military movie.
Jake Busey.
Jake.
I couldn't tell if you were joking there.
Well, they did cast older, but that might have been a stretch. Jake Busey. And then we've got Breckenridge, Shijumi, Kitten Smith, and a bunch of others, most of whom are basically red shirts.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then...
They do not survive the first hour of this movie.
There's a lot of death. They sort of make you care about people, and then they die.
Yep.
And then the enemies would be the arachnids, a race of giant bug-like crab aliens filled with neon goo.
Yep. None of whom actually have 8 legs.
No, I was going to say, I was trying to count, the pinchers, but there's only 4. Yeah. It's clear that they all look like very different species of bugs. So in the future, there are no bug scientists, apparently. And then I think the other enemy is war itself. Even in boot camp, people die. I think, like in many good war movies, violence itself is the enemy. Okay, so there's some shapeshifters in this movie, including Patrick Muldoon as Xander, the John Hughes movie romantic villain who redeems himself in the end. He's part of the rescue. He gets out of the rescue shuttle to fire on the arachnids. I would say that's a redemption. He puts his duty above his personal interest. He could have just let Rico die.
Okay, that would have been petty because it wasn't just Rico down there. Okay, anyway, you're right. He is duty above.
He's not a bad guy. He's a rival, but he's not a bad guy. He's kind of douchey.
I know, right.
And then another shapeshifter is Sergeant Zim, the hard-ass drill sergeant with the heart of gold. He starts out, like a drill sergeant should be.
Yes.
Super aggressive. But as the movie goes on, you can see his goal is really to create good soldiers.
Right.
And in fact, to put duty above his own personal safety in the ultimate test.
Yes, absolutely. I loved the whipping scene. That's not really an appropriate thing to say, but during the whipping scene when he gives Rico the leather to bite on.
Bite down on this, son. It helps. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell.
It's like he's not wanting Rico to suffer here. He
sees potential, maybe sees some of himself in Rico and wants him
he absolutely sees himself in Rico. Yeah,
wants him to learn the lesson.
Yep.
And then that scene where they all have cold beers on the roof was like so. A bottle of suds for me and my friends. Okay,
that Rico's about to have himself an accident.
Tests. The first test doesn't happen to Rico. I see it as Dizzy versus Sergeant Jim, a.k.a. Clancy Brown.
Sergeant Zim.
Yeah. Sergeant Zim.
Invader Jim.
Yeah.
You said Jim.
I did? Okay.
Yeah.
Dizzy versus Sergeant Zim. She wants into his squadron, and so she requests a transfer, and he challenges her. And while she loses, she impresses him enough to get into the unit. Then Rico gets tested in the cafeteria. Ace cuts in line.
Yep.
Jake, not Gary Busey, but Jake Busey. Jake Busey. Wow.
Holy smoke.
VX gas. He turns a potential enemy into an ally. And then we have the American Ninja Obstacle Course.
Yep.
Very predictive. Johnny is leading with Ace in second, and then Dizzy distracts them both, and they fall into the mud pit.
Yep.
This is a fail. Can you put your military duty above being distracted by a girl? And they both fail. And Dizzy wins because she's using her feminine wiles in any way she can.
Oh, stop. There was no feminine wiles involved.
You don't think so?
I
guess
she's
you're right.
sliding down a zip line and calls out,
She
hey,
just says, hey,
and they
you're
both
right.
turn around. There's nothing.
You're correct.
Stop.
That's good. The next scene is simultaneously the most evolved scene and the most gratuitous scene. It's the co-ed shower scene, where you really see women and men in the military being treated the same.
Right.
Without losing the realistic sort of sexual harassment, close-knit camaraderie. They're spanking each other's butts and making jokes. And Johnny Rico,
one person spanks Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what I mean. They're horsing around in the shower, and men and women aren't being treated differently. No one's being objectified any more than anybody else.
Some critics called out that scene as gratuitous.
Yeah.
Verhoeven said that scene was intentional because he wanted to show that men and women are treated the same in this society, and in that situation, none of them are sexualized.
That's a much more eloquent way to say what I was trying to say. I totally agree. That's what I was trying to point out.
And a funny, I don't know if it's a funny moment, but anyway, before they shot that scene, the actors were kind of bashful about it. Mm-hmm. Verhoeven said, "Come on, what's the big deal?" And Dina Meyer said, "Well, Paul, if it's not a big deal, why don't you drop trowel?" And he did. He took off his clothes and he directed the scene naked, as did the DP. The DP took off his clothes too, and so they were all naked.
Can you imagine that happening?
At that point, they
Can
were like,
you imagine 2019 the director dropping trowel? So Kitten Smith, played by Matt Levin, wants to be a writer. So he's asking everyone, "Why did you join up?" And the recruits are all giving different answers. One of them wants to go into politics, and you have to be a citizen for that.
Yep.
One of them wants babies, so apparently you can't have children unless you're a citizen.
Yeah, you have to have a license.
But Rico's parents, anyway,
they're wealthy,
so they
got around it.
So Ace is going career. But when they get to Johnny, he won't answer the question, and it's Dizzy who outs him. He's here because of a girl. Kitten Smith asks her after Johnny's left and gotten that spank on the end.
Right.
He asks her, "Are you the girl?" Mm-hmm. And she kind of gives him a coy smile.
Not yet.
And honestly, I'm not sure how this is a test, but we had to talk about that scene. Maybe it's a test of I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that.
It's a test of Johnny's true motivations for being there. Because we learn later on, he even says, "I joined up for the wrong reasons and I got a guy killed."
That's exactly why that's a test. I was testing you to see if you knew why that scene was a test, and you passed. So good for you. Another test is Ibanez. Oh man, that name drives me.
The only person in this film that says her last name correctly is the computer.
Yes,
when she yeah.
Yes, I was almost going to say that. And it's funny because we'll
have to cut that in.
There's a guitar company spelled the same way, and everyone calls it Ibanez. So this poor name has been abused.
Wow.
Anyway, she pilots a ship for the first time. It's basically backing Daddy's car out of the garage, and trying not to hit the wall.
But she's really good at it, though.
She pulls it off.
She knows exactly what she's doing.
Yes.
She's being intentionally reckless, but she's in control.
Absolutely. And then her friend, pilot cadet Stack Lumbrizer, is played by a young Amy Smart.
Yeah.
Of Scrubs and Felicity and Road Trip fame.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
The next test, laser tag.
Yep.
Rico's team is pinned down and losing until Dizzy thinks of a sports ball play involving a roll-a-dope and firing two guns.
Roll-a-dope.
They should have called it the John Woo, because he's like roll-a-dopes, gets the guy's gun, and then he's firing.
It's the flip 6-3 hole, Jeff.
That's what I meant.
That's what everybody does in that situation.
So, what voice is that?
I watched the commentary with the actors. And Dina Meyer, and Paul Verhoeven was in it too. And Dina Meyer says, like, what the heck is a flip 6-3 hole anyway?
Zim and another military leader guy decide to make Johnny the squad leader. So that's the first of his promotions in this film. Afterward, back in the barracks, Johnny is polishing his prefect's badge. And just as he's thanking Dizzy for her contribution to his success, he gets a video message from Carmen, and she breaks up with him on screen in front of the whole squad. Now, she can't control that he's watching it in front of the whole squad, but she did see his living quarters in his first video message to her. So anyway, he has failed the long-distance relationship test by not being as close or as scoundrelish as Patrick Muldoon.
Wow.
This is also where we discover that even though humanity has developed laser guns and co-ed showers and faster than light speed travel, media technology never got past the mini disc. And I feel bad for sci-fi movies because, whatever the screens on the ship look like, it's going to be limited by that time period.
Of course.
But the mini disc thing, I laughed out loud. I thought, in 1997, you thought, oh, that's so cool. They have mini discs.
Yeah.
It had to come in the mail. So somehow they mailed a physical mini disc from a ship halfway across the whatever. Next is Rico's first outing as squad leader. He's leading the squad through a live ammo exercise where they battle deadly giant versions of the green plastic soldiers from Toy Story.
Yep.
Breckenridge's helmet malfunctions, and Johnny gives him permission to take it off so he can look at it, and Breckenridge subsequently gets the top of his head blown off by friendly fire. Mm-hmm. So Rico is about to get kicked out by commanding officer Dean Norris of Breaking Bad and Total Recall, but Zim stands up for him. So instead of getting kicked out, he gets administrative punishment, a.k.a. 10 lashes in the public square. And then the scene that you referenced, Zim is merciful and gives him something to bite down on. I see that as the last of the tests before the approach.
Approach to the inmost cave. This is where the hero reaches a dangerous place, the edge of.
I hope
where
the
object of their quest is hidden.
I hope the listeners enjoy how much we are unraveling.
This is,
Dan and I have been under a lot of pressure.
We haven't even had anything to drink yet beyond coffee. Anyway.
I love you, Dan.
So, Rico quits the mobile infantry.
Yeah.
His conscience, as he says to Dizzy,
I joined up for the wrong reasons. I got a guy killed. I figure that kind of proves I don't have what it takes.
So he signs his 1240A or whatever that document is, and he's about to take his stroll down Washout Lane and makes a video call to his parents, who, as we've already discussed, welcome him back home. They say, come home immediately. We'll figure this out together.
Yeah.
And then it gets real dark.
Oh my, what's that?
Looks like rain.
This time of year?
Sure is dark.
Your transmission has been terminated due to atmospheric interference. Please try your call again later.
So then Johnny is leaving and walking through the training area, and suddenly all the troopers start running in the same direction. And he says, what's going on? What's going on? And so they all run to a video screen, and they see the Oakland fires. That's what that footage is from. They took it from either Oakland or Malibu fires.
Oh, wow.
From
I thought you were being a
the prior year. No, that's what all that footage is. The Federal Network News reveals that an asteroid launched from Klendathu wiped out Buenos Aires.
Yes.
And Johnny marches back into the CO's office and demands to be reinstated.
And by the way, the entire military force of the planet is now responding. There's a deadly attack. A city's been destroyed. And yet, 2 commanding officers have the time to meet with Johnny and hold his hand and help him not quit. That was like one of those scenes where they just be like, "You're one, get out of my office." No, but they have this, and I enjoyed it for the sake of the story. But that was one of those moments where I'm like, no, that would never happen.
It was another point in Zim's journey.
Sure.
When he tears up the 1248
following the
document. Narrative
of the characters, it's great, but it's totally unrealistic. They were all being mobilized, and those guys have nothing better to do than like hold a boot camp recruit's hand and help him back into the thing. So we're making fun of this movie, but we both love it. Like, I love this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Unlike The Rock.
Yes.
Our episode of The Rock where doing the episode pointed out all the warts.
Yeah,
and
piece of my
see
childhood.
That film in a much less favorable light now, although I still enjoy it. This film, no love lost. It was, I absolutely still adore this film. It's so much fun.
Watching The Rock again was like watching a piece of my childhood crack off and float down the sewer. But this, I also wanted to say, the military dialogue, the stuff they make up, is so much more authentic in this movie than it is in The Rock. Like, even you already filed your 140B. Like, the fact that they made the detail of making up a number for the form and the way Dean Norris delivers it, you go, oh, of course, there's a 1240D thing that he signed. And that's the military jargon is so much more believable and smooth in this movie than it is in the...
You know a lot about military jargon, do you?
I only know what feels and sounds authentic, and it feels and sounds more authentic here than it did in The Rock.
Well, Dale Dye was the military advisor on this film. I don't know if he was.
See?
I don't know if he was on The Rock. Probably. He's the military advisor on every film, though.
I told you.
That's it for Approach to the Inmost Cave. Rico rejoins the mobile infantry.
Ooh.
And the MI mobilizes to Clendathu. There's some scenes in between where Ace, Diz, Kitten, and Johnny all get tattoos, the Death from Above tattoos together.
Right. And they spent however many thousands of dollars on the laser tattoo effect, but the tattoos are obviously lick 'em and stick 'em, like the kind you get on I'm like, come on, you can see the edges of the fake tattoo, the colors. It was so funny. So there's one scene I would add, which is Johnny runs into Carmen, and then he and Xander have this penis contest fight.
Right.
And
to Fade Into You by Mazzy Star.
Yeah, which inexplicably using that song. It was just a horrible use of that song. Anyway, there is one key point, though. Dizzy and Ace are pulling Johnny away, and she says, "Forget it, Rico. Mobile infantry and fleet don't mix."
Yep.
And it reminded me of the scene in A Few Good Men where Lieutenant Kendrick says, "No, I like you Navy boys. Whenever we got to go someplace and fight, you always give us a ride."
This is the second episode we have referenced that quote.
When are we going to do A Few Good Men? How is that?
We don't need to now.
Yeah,
we don't need to.
You're right. So that leads us to Ordeal, where the hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome his worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die. We are now exchanging cards. Oh, you just gave me mine. How did that work?
Did we already exchange cards while we were griping at each other?
No, but what kind of magic illusion is that? So,
all right.
Dan wrote...
Oh, what?
Dan wrote The Battle of Clendathu, which is exactly correct. That's what I wrote was the Ordeal.
Yeah, and you said Roughnecks Assault Tango Uvula.
I was just trying to have it not be what I picked so that maybe I would guess right and there would be something interesting. So you were correct. I chose The Battle of Clendathu. And I know I always say this, but I really struggled with this part. There are 3 battle sequences you could stick into this slot. But I think the assault on Clendathu is the transformative moment. Johnny and his friends really see what they're up against for the first time, and they take heavy casualties, and they witness nightmarish violence and death.
Yes.
So the mobile infantry move out for their assault on Clendathu. They blow up the big laser shooting bugs, they're machine gunning the arachnids, and people start dying.
Yep.
Ace gets his first chance to lead in battle, and he chokes.
Right.
So Johnny takes over by issuing the sophisticated command, kill him.
Kill them
Kill them all. Shijumi is mauled by a swarm of arachnids.
Yeah.
And the squad falls back. More death happens. And then Johnny turns his back on an arachnid he thinks is dead, and it bites him on his leg. That's some spider bite. He kills it, but another bug closes in, and we see him firing the shotgun effect from his gun. And then we cut to news film footage of just carnage.
Yeah.
And you see the title come up, over 100,000 dead in 1 hour.
Right.
Can you imagine? I can't even imagine that level of violence. I mean, that's like nuclear bomb, but this was
worse. Yeah.
This was gunfight.
Right.
Carmen sees Johnny's name on the KIA list, and we think he's dead. That's the hero appearing to die. That's the ordeal.
There's a callback, or maybe it's foreshadowing. During the shower scene, Shijumi says,
I got into Harvard, but my father says, forget it, it's going to cost an arm and a leg, you know?
And then Shijumi is dismembered, arms and legs.
It does cost him
It costs him all arms and all legs.
Wow, interesting. I had not picked up on that foreshadowing. By the way, what kind of fantasy is it where you serve 2 years in the military and you get to go to Harvard? You can go to a state school, maybe, but
let's remember the oath that they take.
After having been duly advised and warned of the meaning and consequences of this oath, enroll in the federal service for not less than 2 years.
And as much longer as may be required by the needs of the Federation.
Yeah,
you might never get out.
It's like forced conscription or whatever that was called when they would re-enlist men without their
stop loss. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we moving on to the ultimate boon?
This is your favorite part.
It is my favorite part, and I got stuck with it this time. So seizing the sword, having faced their worst fear, the hero seizes the object of their quest. Now, the reason I had a hard time with this, I have a hard time for a variety of reasons in every episode, but as you stated, this is a war film, and so I had a hard time deciding what the actual reward is. What is the sword that is seized by Johnny in the Battle of Clendathu? After Carmen sees Johnny's name on the scoreboard, we cut to Rico in a Bacta tank.
That's right.
Having been rescued. Who are the two who visit him in his Bacta tank? Ace and Diz, who have become his best friend and his love interest.
Yeah.
When you're in a war, you need a best friend to watch your back, and you need a sweetheart back home to go home to. But in this case, the sweetheart is also a badass and also watching your back. For me, this was one element of the cohesiveness of the group of people that Johnny has discovered himself in. Johnny gets out of the Bacta tank. He is healed miraculously by a strange little mechanical droid thing that restitches all of his muscles and tendons.
It's the same thing that healed Luke in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. And the three of them, being the only survivors of their original unit from Clendathu, are attached to a new unit, the legendary Roughnecks.
Yes.
Radchek's Roughnecks!
And they discover that, like you just said, it is Radchek's Roughnecks, their old history teacher from school.
Yeah.
Who now has this like big mechanical arm.
Yeah.
He's not just a history teacher. This guy's a boss. And I love the music of his introduction.
Oh, is it like a military drum roll? I don't remember.
It's kind of like a...
Who wrote?
Basil Polidorus, who also wrote the score for a bunch of movies, but Conan the Barbarian, which I think the score for that film is fantastic. Love it. Listen to that one at work all the time. The Roughnecks land on, what's the planet? Tango Urilla. So the Federation's military leaders have a new battle plan, as Radchek states to his troops.
Got a new sky marshal and a new battle plan. Gonna clean out the systems outlying Clendathu one planet at a time. Tomorrow we hit Tango Urilla. After Fleet glasses the planet, MI mops up.
In this first new operation, they are faced with a new bug that we haven't seen before, called the tanker bug. I don't know that they call it that. They don't mention it that way in the movie, but in any kind of written material that I see about the movie, people always call it the tanker bug. So I don't know. But anyway, it is this massive beetle thing that shoots flamethrowers out of its antenna or something.
It's crazy.
This fire-breathing,
it's like a land dragon
thing. Yeah. And so this is Rico's opportunity to prove that he's got the stuff.
Right.
Because the previous corporal is wounded in this battle, Radchek now needs a new corporal, and he promotes Rico.
I need a corporal. You're it until you're dead, or till I find somebody better.
In terms of the ultimate boon, this is a war film. Mm-hmm. The previous war scene that we see is a complete failure.
Yeah.
Rico is now attached to this legendary fighting force, Radchek's Roughnecks, and he earns a battlefield promotion for bravery and excellence, on the battlefield. So I see that as his reward. That night, Radchek opens up this, I don't know, shipping container or something.
I expect the best, and I give the best. Here's the beer. Here's the entertainment.
For some reason, he has a green neon violin,
and
I guess,
and a football.
Well, the football makes sense, but how many people play the violin?
Well, it seemed to me that he had,
so of course,
he had somehow ordered specifically entertainment devices that match the needs of his crew. So
sure, okay,
I don't know.
All right, so now there's festivities, there's music as Ace is playing the green neon violin, and Diz asks Rico to dance. And he rejects her, rudely. Do I have to pull rank? It's like, who are you, dude?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sugar takes the dance, and he goes and dances. And in a mentor moment, Radchek comes up and says, Rico.
You once asked me for advice. Want some now? Never pass up a good thing.
So Rico dances with Diz, and then the two of them disappear into his tent. I think in the second greatest sequence of dialogue of all time.
In this movie or of all time?
Of all time. Radchek opens the tent and says,
Rico! Moving out. There's been a distress call from General Owen on Planet B, so get your wired and report in 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Who's that with you?
Florence, sir.
Make it 20 minutes.
Yes!
Yes.
I love that. That is hysterical.
In the script, in the shooting script, that's not how it goes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He says, get your ass ready and slams the door. But I love that it happens this way in the movie. It's in the same universe as, I know there's a giant war starting, but let's stop and have a protracted conversation about you not quitting the army. It's the same universe.
Yeah. It's it shows you that this is not a dead serious
for sure
film. You're supposed to laugh at that.
So Vogler talks about two parts of the reward that are beautifully expressed in this movie. And it's one of the reasons why I really liked doing this analysis is so many of these scenes fit neatly into the Vogler slots. One of them is love scenes, and we have a love scene here. That's traditionally part of the reward. The battle is won, the lovers consummate. And then the other one is the campfire scene, the celebration, which we totally get.
Yeah, both of those are represented here. And that concludes Act 2. We're going to move on to the beverage break, after which will be Act 3.
I have before me.
You have before you, as you always do,
the
ceremonial beverage bag. Let's see what we found for this episode.
Ooh. Trooper, premium British beer, created by Iron Maiden. So we got the Iron Maiden skull guy who has a name I can't remember, and he's holding the British flag, and it's Robinson's is the brewery, charged with flavor. Flavor. Oh, I love it. Trooper, perfect.
Yeah. I was sweating it a little bit. I couldn't really find anything appropriate. I was looking for, some sci-fi stuff, and we'd already used Space Dust for Alien.
Oh, you're right.
So I was a little concerned, and then I found that. So
I'm gonna crack this open. Okay, so this kind of reminds me of the color of Old Speckled Hen, but it's a little bit darker.
I don't know what Old Speckled Hen looks like. I don't remember.
Oh, what did we drink?
I've had it.
What did we drink? What was the British thing I got for Hitchhiker's Guide?
Fuller's ESB?
Yes, Old Speckled Hen. So
No, it's not the same thing.
This is a dark...
It's got a good head on it.
Yeah, it's got a nice frothy head. It looks like a British ale.
Good.
I'm gonna have a sip. Oh, yep. It smells very malty.
It does.
Ooh, it is malty, but it has like an apple juice kind of a
little bit. This is a very easy to drink.
Yeah.
Doesn't assault any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like you drink a beer and it's just whatever predominant flavor is so strong. This one, nothing really stands out specifically from me. And now that you've said apple juice, that's kind of the color too.
Do you swish it around? I taste almost a champagne flavor too, and I'm not sure what that is.
Good call.
Right?
There is that champagne-y.
But not a super dry champagne, like something cheap and a little sugary. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, I have a very middle-of-the-road opinion of this.
Yeah, because it was associated with Iron Maiden, I expected it to be dark and aggressive, because that's how I think of Iron Maiden's music, but it's quite mellow. I'm enjoying this more with each sip.
It is exceptionally drinkable.
Yes, drinkable is a great term.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I could have anything to eat with this beer. I could have a burger. I could maybe have a chicken salad, and this would go with it. Just a cheese and fruit plate.
Well, let's finish our Iron Maiden Trooper from
Robinson's Brewery.
And we'll be back with Act 3. Act 3 begins with the road back. The hero is pursued by the vengeful forces he disturbed when he seized the sword. Right off the bat, we have vengeful forces. The bugs are on the offense this time, and some kind of big flying bug picks off the sergeant.
Yep.
And Ratchek shoots him before the bug can pick him apart, saying he'd expect the same mercy from his squad.
Right.
If he were in that position. # foreshadowing.
Now, can I mention something about this scene?
Yeah.
Did it seem to you that Ratchek orchestrated that?
Orchestrated the guy getting picked off?
Yes.
Oh, like we're not getting a comm signal, go to the mountain?
Because they're walking through this canyon, and he sees, rocks falling down the canyon. He sees a glimpse of something up there.
It's funny.
And then he tells the comm sergeant to go to higher ground.
I did think that sequence had some problems with it.
Not like, hey, there's something up there. Like, lock and load, everybody.
Well, Rico sees the flapping thing, too. And my comment was like,
says anything.
What? Yeah, I thought that was...
You're on a hostile planet.
I thought it was lame, but I think the filmmaker might have been trying to show the audience more than the characters saw, but if that was the intent, it was poorly done. But I don't think Ratchek... It never occurred to me that Ratchek was creating that situation. That seems out of character for him. And how could he know the thing he would get picked off and then he would have to shoot him? That just seems like a stretch for him to orchestrate that. So I reject that entirely. Anyway, TLDR, Johnny gets another promotion. He's now the acting sergeant. And he smiles just a little bit, which I thought was, okay, we're seeing some ambition from Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
They get to the outpost and they find a scene of complete slaughter. The bugs have cleaned out this base.
Yeah.
And there's something else. There's a victim with a hole in his head, and his skull has been hollowed out.
Right.
And Ratchek has a great monster movie line.
They sucked his brains out.
It's such thank God Michael Ironside has the skill to pull a line off like that.
Yeah. Only his gruffness could have pulled that line off.
All right, so more vengeful forces. A swarm of bugs attacks the outpost. The Roughnecks fight bravely, but there are just too many arachnids.
It's when they look over that wall and they see just a sea.
It's insane.
Bugs.
Dizzy gets the comms back up and calls for backup, but the bugs are coming over the walls. So help arrives in the form of Carmen and Xander in like an escape shuttle vehicle.
Yep.
But before the Roughnecks can evacuate, an underground bug gets Ratchek, tearing off his legs, and he looks at Johnny and says, "You know what to do." And Johnny, after a moment of struggle, mercifully shoots him.
Barely, because Johnny knows, hey, I'm the sergeant. If I shoot the lieutenant, I get to be the LT.
Right. Well, he raises his rifle, and he stops and kind of looks up at Dizzy. They exchange a look, and then Ratchek says, "Do it, Rico."
Yes.
Because he's so badass. Anyway, a giant bug emerges from the hole, and Dizzy nukes it. Now she's had her awesome kill.
Well, she was the school quarterback, so she gets to throw the grenade into the tanker bug's mouth.
We totally skipped that scene where she's the quarterback.
The only female in this all-male
she's such a
sport.
badass.
She's good, yeah.
As she's sort of turning back to celebrate her kill, an arachnid jumps up and spears her with its sharp appendages
4 times.
And she is very badly injured as they carry her onto the evacuation shuttle. And important to note here, Xander comes out of the shuttle and helps defend the squad so they can get into the shuttle.
Yeah, there's a line of dialogue that you glossed over when Diz and Johnny are calling for an evacuation.
Come down on this transmission. Outside the outpost? That's crazy. Well, I hope you have a crazy pilot. Out.
And so who's that crazy pilot but Carmen?
Right.
I think that's important.
Yes, you're right.
For Carmen's character. Again, highlighting her skill as a pilot.
Yeah, she's established herself.
Yeah.
So they get away, but Dizzy doesn't make it. She dies. Dina Meyer's performance elevates this movie. She's the best actor in the whole damn movie. And
excuse me, Michael Ironside.
Yeah, but he's just a badass. Anyway, when she dies, I actually got like emotional. I wanted the bug bastards that got her to die.
Yeah.
And even though she has this sort of, she's a badass, but her death is sort of pointless. You wish she had had a moment like Sugar does, where, you know, she's hopelessly injured and she's the one who gets to nuke. That would have been a death worthy of her character. But in any case,
that she dies in a moment of distraction. She's celebrating a victory and turns her back on the enemy.
She does something stupid.
She makes a mistake.
Yeah, she makes a mistake
right.
and gets it. It would have been more satisfying if she were like, "No, Johnny, go. Like, you can't save me." And then she had some, you know, her death was more meaningful.
Yeah.
Ami actually pointed that out to me because she watched the movie too, and that death pissed her off.
Wow.
But this is a moment where when she says, "I got to have you," I felt like that would be a hard line to pull off as you're dying.
Sure.
And she has this great death scene. So Rico sees Carmen for the first time since their meeting on Ticonderoga, and it's clear they're in two different worlds now. And Johnny says, MI does the dying, Fleet just does the flying. They are the Marines and the Navy, and
yes,
they don't mix.
Exactly.
As Dizzy said.
That's right.
And he, in some level, is confirming or honoring that attitude that she put forth. So this is another scene that's convenient to the narrative that I don't necessarily buy, which is they have this protracted military funeral for Dizzy, who is only one of thousands of people who died. And I guess you could argue that she was the only one whose body they had to take back. But they didn't say something like she represents everyone else who died. It was Johnny giving the sort of half-assed eulogy, and I felt nothing during this scene. But it does represent Rico. He says even during the eulogy,
once somebody asked me if I knew the difference between a citizen and a civilian. I can tell you now. A citizen has the courage to make the safety of the human race their personal responsibility.
So that was a key point in his development. Enter Carl. He is military intelligence now. He's a
SS uniform and all.
Yeah. Oh God. He's a colonel, and he knew all along there was a brain bug on P. And Johnny gets another promotion.
I hear they need a new lieutenant. Want the job?
I'll take it. Till I get killed or you find someone better.
So they land on P. They prepare to assault. Meanwhile, those crazy laser shooting bugs are taking out the fleet. The effects here are really cool. It's so much better than the CGI in the Star Wars prequels. And I see in this sequence why this movie got nominated. I mean, remember when that ship gets cut in half and it's very Star Destroyer-y, but you get to see inside the ship as it's cut in half. I thought that was so cool. Uh-huh. And then you know, it's all these cutting from exteriors of the ship being hit to interiors of people running around. Very Star Trek-y. They're shaking the camera and they're running. But I really like the effects in that scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, Xander and Carmen escape in a shuttle only to land right in a bug hole
right.
where they are immediately set upon by arachnids.
Yep.
But the arachnids don't kill him. They're just holding him captive until the brain bug comes. And it is a gross, quivering, oddly vaginal puppet monster that is constantly oozing this viscous mucus.
Vaginal puppet monster.
It is. And this is where it becomes clear that this is
Sounds
not
like
just
a punk band.
This is not just a war movie, it's a monster movie. And the thing approaches Xander, and it after a line from Xander about someday somebody like me is going to kill you, it sucks his brains out.
Sucks his brains out.
So it goes for Carmen next, but she cuts off its phallic stinger thing with Xander's knife, which really pisses it off.
Wait, I thought it was vaginal. Wait, it's asexual now? What is this thing?
This bug is very gender confused. So then Johnny arrives with a nuke and says his iconic line,
"You're some kind of big, fat, smart bug, aren't you?"
And it's such a great line.
That is the best line in this film.
You quote that line very, very often.
I feel like we both do.
You quote it almost as often as I do the Brad Pitt will not, do not thing. They engage the bugs and they get away with Carmen, but only after Sugar Watkins sacrifices
Is all this
himself.
road back?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all road back.
Okay.
Until the very end of the film, and then that's something else that you get to. Okay, that's the end of road back.
Well, wait. You just stopped right in the middle of...
Oh, yeah, so anyway, they get away, but not until Sugar holds the nuke and waits till they get away. It's the old hold the handle on the live grenade.
Right.
And he aids their escape.
You trying to be a hero, Watkins? Trying to kill some bugs, sir? Get out of here!
This is a turnaround for Sugar because when Rico first joins the Roughnecks, Sugar's really hard on him, but Rico earns his respect throughout the course of his service to the Roughnecks.
Yes, in fact, when Rico, Ace, and Sugar approach their new squad when they land on Planet P, and Rico notices that all the recruits are basically children.
Yeah.
And he basically gives the same speech that Radchek gave to him.
This is for all you new people. I only have one rule. Everyone fights. No one quits. If you don't do your job, I'll kill you myself. Do you get me?
We get you, sir!
Welcome to the Roughnecks. Rico's Roughnecks!
That is that definite show of respect right there. Like you've earned leadership of the Roughnecks. The Roughnecks are still this legendary group, but you're at the head now.
Yes, he's earned it by the deaths of other people. Basically, every time someone dies and Johnny gets the bump. It's kind of like being a teacher. Once you have tenure, somebody has to die or retire.
Moving on to Resurrection, then, the Master of Two Worlds, where the hero is purified or promoted by death in a literal or a symbolic way and returns to the land of the living a changed person.
Well done.
I maybe took this a little literally, just the word resurrection, because everything that I picked out was in the escape shuttle. Xander is in the cargo area or the troop area, and he sees Rico is alive. And he climbs back up to the cockpit and tells Carmen,
"I think you should know. Your friend Rico is back there."
So for her, he is resurrected.
Huh, okay.
The moment of Rico's Roughnecks. Radchek has been killed.
Yeah.
So that could be the death of the Roughnecks, but Rico, the name lives on, and Rico is now the head of that legendary fighting force. They're now Rico's Roughnecks. So
yeah,
that is the resurrection of the squad. Even though everybody in that squad is brand new. Like they said, Ace says most of them are fresh out of boot.
I really like that interpretation, Dan. Well done.
The final thing that I had as the resurrection was as Carmen and Ace and Rico are escaping the tunnel as Sugar detonates his mini nuke to block the path so that they can escape. Ace calls on the radio and gives the mobile infantry the location of the brain bug, which then allows capture of the brain bug. And who did it? Zim!
Yes.
As Dean Norris, as the CO, the boot camp CO, says,
"Forget it, Jim, we need you here.
I want combat, sir.
The only way you're gonna see combat is if you bust yourself to private. Get me?"
Yes, sir, I get you.
And so now Private Zim is the one who has captured the brain bug. So this moment is a huge victory for the mobile infantry. They have captured the brain bug, and it has reunited Carl and Johnny and Carmen, who, after all three of them are leaving the recruitment center, Carmen says,
let's make a vow. No matter what, we'll always be friends.
I'll go for that.
Well, chances are we'll never see each other again. We'll be millions of light years away from each other. But, yeah, sure, why not?
And here they are at the end of the film, reunited.
Well done. Well done.
And Carmen says, whenever we're together, I feel like things are going to be okay.
The only image that I saw that you didn't mention was there's a resurrection image where Johnny's crawling up out of the bug hole where they've been captured. They emerge from that like bug cave or whatever. And I saw that as a symbol of resurrection.
Oh, sure. Leaving the underworld
right
into the land of the living.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you see all of the MI celebrating the capture of the brain bug. Yeah.
So you remember...
That was good. I didn't pick up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember... So there's the scene where Johnny gets on top of the tanker bug and, machine guns a hole in its carapace and then throws a grenade in.
Yeah.
And he's just... It's completely drowned in that neon goo.
Right.
Can we count that as a baptism? Right? Because it precipitates a promotion. So it's like a...
Yeah.
All right, we're calling that a baptism. We haven't had a baptism in a couple episodes, so...
What are you talking about? We had one literally last episode.
We haven't had a baptism since literally like last month. It's been a month.
We even called it out. And you said it last episode too. We haven't had a baptism in a couple episodes.
If there's one thing I've learned...
rain on my car is a baptism.
That's right. That's right. He literally says baptism in the movie. If there's one thing I've learned about myself, it's that my memory is awful. It's so unreliable. And I've read a lot about neurology in my life, and I know that memory is unreliable, but my memory, like I am my own unreliable narrator.
Wow.
I am a terrible memory-er. Anyway. That brings us to, as Dan would call it, the end. Return with the elixir.
What?
You always say that. That brings us to the end. And I'm like, no, it's not the end until after this part.
Well, it is the end. It's the ending.
Return with the elixir. Freedom to live. Our hero, having won some precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. Carmen gets her own ship. Johnny is now a lieutenant. We know he's absorbed the wisdom of his mentor, because as he leads his troops onto the next battlefield, he echoes the line, "Come on, you apes, you want to live forever!" Humans have won the battle, and now they've got the intelligence they need to win the war.
The first few times I watched this movie, I thought, well, Johnny's just plagiarizing everything that Radchek ever says.
Yeah.
I've since realized that to be the leader of the Roughnecks, who you are is not important. It's that you happen to be, at that moment in time, the lieutenant of the Roughnecks. And so it is that legend that you are portraying.
Yeah.
Radchek may not have been the one that said, "Come on, you apes, you want to live forever." Maybe his CO, when he was a private, used to say that.
Right.
And it's like being the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah. Nice tie-in. Well, isn't that part of the structure of a military organization, is to subvert your individual identity in favor of your group identity?
Yeah.
That's why you wear a uniform.
Yes. I thought it was interesting that during this Federal Network closing sequence, as you said, Captain Carmen Ibanez, she's now the captain of her own ship, which may or may not be the Roger Young. They call out Lieutenant John Rico, but also Private Ace Levy. Like, what did he ever do?
He's still a private.
That he earns... But what does he do that he earns a call out in the Federal Network news broadcast?
He played violin. He was the bard that inspired everyone.
He's the one guy from boot camp, other than Johnny, who survives to the end of the movie.
That's not nothing.
He's the Wedge Antilles of the film.
Well said.
That's why he gets a special call out in the Federal Network news broadcast.
There you go.
That is it for this episode. Jeff, thank you for discussing this movie with me. This has been a favorite of mine, a guilty pleasure, not even a guilty pleasure, just a true pleasure for me. This film, I've loved it for years, ever since it came out.
I love it too, and it got better.
I'm so happy that we didn't The Rock this.
Yeah,
that it is a movie that even after this episode where we had to pick it apart and we saw some warts, but I still love this movie.
It holds up in a lot of ways.
It absolutely does. And I think because it is intentionally campy.
Yes.
If this was a serious war film with serious political statements to make, then I think this would not hold up at all. This would be a complete flop today.
Yes.
But it holds up because it is a satire. It does have things to say. It does make political statements.
Yeah.
But it's campy and fun and ridiculous. That is it for this episode. Join us next month when we saddle up and cover a modern Western from a list expertly curated by yours truly, because I won Deal or Ordeal.
Yes, you did.
Here are your 3 choices, patrons. Go to patreon.com/Hero's Journey to vote on Silverado.
You're wearing my hat.
Tombstone.
I'm your Huckleberry. So take this over. It's
or
so horrible.
310 to Yuma. They're gonna hang me in the morning.
Oh, God. Kill me now.
Kevin Durand, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh.
Place your votes.
If you've listened this far, it means you've either fallen asleep or you're driving and your phone...
Hopefully not at the same time.
Your phone fell between the seats and you can't skip the ending credits. Or,
oh, come on.
Or you actually like our podcast. Regardless, please subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends about us and give us a 5-star review on iTunes. That really does make a difference for us.
And if you find yourself wishing there were more episodes to listen to, please consider becoming a patron. Patrons get access to dozens of bonus audio and video content, including trivia about the films and the books that we cover, behind-the-scenes featurettes, and outtakes of Jeff stuttering and swearing. Go to patreon.com/Hero's Journey to see all the stuff you can get.
I just realized I said dozens of bonus audio and video content, which makes no sense, but whatever.
It's fine.
The Hero's Journey
No one's listening this late anyway.
The Hero's Journey is produced by Jeff Garvin and Dan Zarzana with original music by Taylor Jordan. Thanks to Dean Effington for designing our logo. This episode, we sampled Iron Maiden Trooper Premium British Beer by Robinsons.
Strap Chop Poopers is copyright 1997. TriStar Pictures and Touchstone Pictures.
Hey you, take out your phone and follow us on Twitter at Heroes Podcast. Our tweets are funny and mostly spelled correctly and will not escalate any conflicts with foreign countries.
Also not true. Like us at facebook.com/Heroes Journey Podcast. Our posts will offer a laugh or two to break up that solid block of pictures about people's kids you don't care about. Is it the kids you don't care about or the people?
I don't know.
Unfollow them if you don't like the people.
Read that into whatever you want. And please check out our show notes, including links to what we're reading, watching, playing, and drinking at heroesjourneypodcast.com. Until next time.
Come on, you apes! Do you want to live forever?
Journey on.
Journey on.
I love it.